Looking back, we can see that the Great War of the Worlds, which changed everything forever, was first signalled through an event which took place over a century earlier in the old country of Portugal. The precise date was the 13th of May, 1917. 3 children from the tiny hamlet of Aljustrel near Fatima were playing while tending a flock of sheep on a sloping pasture called the Cova da Ira. Lucy dos Santos, the eldest of the trio, was only 10 years old, and her 2 cousins, Francisco and Jacinta Marto, were just 9 and 7. Before the moment when the young friends witnessed what seemed like a flash of lightning, they were completely innocent of the fact that they were about to become the focus of the most important supernatural event of the 20th century, an event which would govern the fate of humanity and the world as it then was. Though suppressed and debunked by its critics and enemies at every opportunity, the Fatima apparitions were well chronicled through some excellent sources on the free internet and in some notable books and journals. The apparitions were also the subject of movie productions, which were still being released over 100 years later. And so, the primary focus of these historical accounts is not just to retell what has already been well told, but more to explain the links between what happened at Fatima during 1917 and the seismic world events which followed, and which in turn led to the existential plight humanity faces today. First though, let's put the Fatima phenomenon in context. While Catholicism had a long and checkered history of heavenly manifestations, by the 19th century, a seemingly more pressing series of apparitions was reaching the world through younger souls, such as Melanie and Maximin on the mountain of La Salette and the angelic Bernadette at the Grotto of Lourdes. That trend continued into the early 20th century, with the incomparable series of apparitions of a beautiful lady at Fatima, and which took place on the 13th of every month from May 1917, culminating in the most spectacular one, which occurred the following October, a cosmic event for sure which, according to some intellectuals of the time, marked a truly extraordinary moment in our history, our salvation, and our whole universe. How that view now rings true. But, however sweet and glorious the manner of their delivery, the signs and secrets given to the young seers at the Cova da Ira soon came to represent a critical test of faith for the mighty Roman Catholic Church and its millions of followers throughout the world, because those signs and secret messages conveyed harsh yet hopeful realities which would challenge our pride head on and confirm the truth of our existence, a truth which, even in this twilight age for humanity, remains as empowering and humbling as it is terrifying. What a huge weight which was placed on the young shoulders of Lucy, Francisco, and Jacinta over the summer and autumn months of 1917, not least in July, when the sheer enormity of the children's missionary task was fully revealed. Aware that the claims of the young children who would soon be imprisoned were under growing scrutiny, the Divine Lady, by now recognised as the Mother of Jesus, promised that on the 13th of October she would perform a miracle for all to see and believe. But a lot more was revealed that fateful Friday when the seers beheld a frightening sea of fire, containing demons in human form but with a repellent likeness to frightful alien creatures, a spectre we can now better understand. The Madonna then gently explained the vision as she confided a terrible secret. In the first part of the secret, the trembling children were told that the vision they had just experienced confirmed the conscious reality of eternal hell. In the second part of the secret, while foretelling the end of World War I, which was still raging at the time, the Madonna also warned of a much worse one to follow if the Catholic Church did not unite in openly entrusting Russia to her Immaculate Heart, the grace of God. Otherwise, she said, Russia, whom the seers had little or no knowledge of, would go on to spread her errors throughout the world, during a time when the good would be martyred, the Holy Father would have much to suffer, and various nations would be annihilated. The Madonna then introduced an even more apocalyptic third part to the secret, which, she said, unlike the first two parts, was to remain secret until the year 1960 at the latest. The third part of the secret comprised another vision, based on a great cosmic struggle, a devastated city, the murder of a bishop dressed in white, later interpreted as the Pope, and the martyrdom of many souls. It was a vision that, without any apparent explanation from heaven, was to become a source of much mystery, speculation, and even division as to whether it represented a fading memory, a tall tale, or an extremely frightening truth. Tragically for the world, as we now know, the answer to the mystery came much too late. By the time of the final apparition, many of the pilgrims visiting the amphitheatre of Cova de Ira were sensing that heaven was already visiting that special place. And that is exactly what happened around noon on Saturday the 13th of October 1917. At least according to the 50 to 70,000 people, including many journalists and skeptics who were looking on. At the end of the final apparition, and with the Madonna's parting message, some 70,000 people began to witness an extraordinary spectacle. The insistent rain suddenly stopped and the sky became clear. Amazingly, people were able to stare easily at the sun, which then appeared to dance, starting one way and then another, while shooting great rays of coloured light in different directions. In one fearful moment, the sun seemed to detach from the sky and fall to earth, which explains why many breathed great sighs of relief when the celestial display gently faded away. Everyone was still alive, all was well, the miracle from heaven, just as the Madonna and the children had foretold, had indeed taken place. That illiterate young children were chosen to receive and relate the messages and signs of Fatima to a proud church in an increasingly proud technological world would prove highly significant. For the subsequent fate of the young messengers would also reflect the fate of many millions of innocent babes and children throughout the century and more that followed. They all suffered in this world by their heavenly innocence. As foretold in the apparitions, Francisco and Jacinta would soon be on their way to heaven. Holding faithfully to what they had been told, they both agonizingly succumbed to the flu epidemic which ravaged Europe in 1918. Francisco Marto died at just 11 years of age, and his little sister Jacinta died when only 10. However, exactly as foretold by the Madonna, their cousin Lucy's mission on this earth would continue for a much longer time. Lucy dos Santos died aged 97 on the 13th of February 2005. It would be by Lucy's apprehensive but obedient hand, while under the constant glare of her reluctant masters in Rome, that Fatima's prophetic warnings and messages of hope would undergo a long and difficult translation, almost to the point when their full import for humanity might tragically have been lost forever. But fortunately, while that outcome would have suited many, the Fatima message continued to shine patiently on the world as its vital meaning became clearer with every passing day. Looking back, we now know that the worst was yet to come, but thankfully many souls in the world were well prepared for what followed. Thank you for listening. We invite you to share this video and subscribe for the next installment in our series on the Fatima apparitions and their critical importance to the fate of humanity. We would also very much welcome your own thoughts and comments on the Fatima story and its relevance to the world today.